Oh, wow. That just randomly cut out. I thought it was supposed to fade. The music was supposed to fade out.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared.
Well, that's why I hopped on, because I was like, oh, we're in music. And so we need to just check in, make sure we got everything we need to. So welcome to the Supergirl Radio live stream. We're going to get started talking about My Adventures of Superman number 7 in a bit. So Morgan, are you ready to go? We got the doc and everything. Okay. All right. So we will hop in our League of Lois Lane's cruiser, I guess. Looked a lot like the Legion cruiser to me.
It did.
So we will hop in the League of Lois Lane's cruiser, and we'll get to talking about the episode. No, that was the wrong one. This is the right one.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes! Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And we are live and wired on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page, which for some reason is causing us issues with these live streams. So we've been having to fix them before we go live. Gonna ask StreamYard about that, but we are live on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page, at least we should be, to discuss and review My Adventures with Superman's 7th episode titled Kiss Kiss Fall in Portal. So we don't have any news this week, so I guess we should just go straight to it and talk about the episode. So Kiss Kiss Fall in Portal is the episode that we are going to be talking about for this episode of Supergirl Radio, and the description for Max reads, quote, Clark tries to plan a normal date without any Superman problems, but he gets interrupted, unquote. And the major interruption to Clark's big plans for his date with Lois, the big interrupter is a character that we know and are familiar with, and we happen to be big fans of.
We love this character. We love saying this character's name. We say it often. We say it correctly.
Yes. So this version of Mix-Ez-Pitalik is how they say it in this episode. I prefer the Mix-Ez-Pitalik version of the pronunciation, but here I think it was pronounced Mix-Ez-Pitalik. So he is the big interruption that causes Clark and Lois's first date, or maybe second date, I guess. Their date at the gala that Cat Grant didn't want to go to, I guess maybe was technically the first date. But he interrupts the second date that Clark is planning. So, Morgan, what did you think about this version of Mixie?
I loved this version of Mixie. What a little scamp. I like that that this version of Mixie, his power comes from his little hat.
Yeah,
that's really cute. It's hard to take seriously, I'll be honest, but it's delightful. Yeah, I liked it. Like every time I was like, oh, maybe Mixie isn't so bad. Mixie would be like, and now I'll kill you all. And I was like, no, Mixie, we're all friends here. I love your little hat.
That is typical for Mix-Ez-Pitalik, is that he is a little bit of a fifth dimensional prankster. He's kind of playing with characters like Superman, but he's actually very powerful, and I would argue the most powerful character in DC Comics. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't know, but I feel like he's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful. So I was glad to see him put that little hat on and become uber power. He became more powerful. He could do things, but he could do more things. when he put that
He
on.
had so many portals everywhere.
He did have a lot of portals. He was a master of illusion, is what the Lois Lanes called him. So there was a lot of talk about Mxyzptlk here in this version. So he describes himself to Clark as an interdimensional peacekeeper, and he also says that he's charged with the safety of the multiverse. Do you think he's lying to Clark there, or is there some truth to what he's talking about?
Interesting.
Do you think he really is in charge of the
I
multiverse?
think he's lying. Like, I think he's lying, like, pretty seriously lying. But who knows? That's the thing. Mixie's a little scamp, and we just never know when he's lying or telling the truth. So he remains mysterious.
I think the more accurate description that the League of Lois Lanes calls him is a chaos god. So that seems more in line with what he actually is and who he actually is. So lots of descriptions of Mixie here. And so he knows a lot about Clark and Lois, this version of Clark and Lois. So he has at least been through the multiverse a little bit. He does know a lot about the different Supermen of the multiverse. So I thought we could go through these really quickly. He rattles off several. So this one that I've got an image up on the live stream of is, let me find him. I think he's Earth 12, which I have questions about Earth 12. So he calls this one Earth 12, who looks like the Fleischer Superman to me. If anybody has any other thoughts of who this is supposed to be, another animated version of Superman, like My Adventures with Superman. Then we have a Superman that looks a little bit to me like Super Friends Superman.
Yeah, kind of. That's what I was thinking too.
Mixie calls him Earth 50. Then we have a more recent version of Superman, who is Earth 508, who is definitely Superman the animated series, or in the DCAU, Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, that version of Superman. So I
don't think I ever noticed like how snatched this Superman's waist is. Like, damn, Superman.
He's been super working out.
He sure has.
So Superman the animated series is Earth 508, and then one I wasn't really sure about, which was a super crab.
Super crab.
Which the captions.
I like that it's a real crab. It's like not animated. No, I didn't notice that. It went so fast, I didn't notice that. That's hilarious.
It does look like a real version, a real picture of a crab. The captioning for this episode calls him Weird Earth. So I don't know if that's an actual Earth in the multiverse. But Mixie goes through all of these Supermen. So the question I had about Earth 12 was also that, let me see in my notes where I have all of this. So Earth 12 is what he calls the Fleischer Superman. But the League of Lois Lane say that the Lois and Jimmy of the My Adventures with Superman Earth are on Earth 12. So I don't know exactly how they exist on Earth 12, and also the Fleischer Superman exists on Earth 12.
I think somebody got that wrong, and I don't know. I feel like Mixie's not a reliable source. And
True.
And Lois, the Loises, they tend to check their sources.
They check their work,
that they have the right information. They all got a Pulitzer, before they were 20. So we know our version in My Adventures of Superman is that she's slacking a little bit.
Yes, and we will definitely be talking about the League of Lois Lanes, because I happen to love this idea. I think this should be an idea that we continue to pursue in DC Comics lore. So what did you think about how, so I know we're kind of skipping ahead to some things, but Mixie gets put into custody again. They get the little Mixie bowler hat off of him and they put him in custody. But jail doesn't take for him. So he's still around. So do you think we will see Mxyzptlk again?
I think we might see Mixie again. I appreciate it that even when Mixie got out of jail, broke free prison break style, that Mixie decided to visit Lois just to like sprinkle a little chaos on top of whatever was happening, and then be like, bye-bye. Maybe your new boyfriend's evil. See ya.
That
Quite
is exactly what he did. So were you surprised, because I was, that they did not stop Mixie by having him say his name backwards?
I was. I kept waiting for it and waiting for it, and then it like never happened. And I was like, "Does somebody want to like just accidentally say his name wrong or something?" And they're like, "What? His power?" I don't know. I expected that was how they were going to defeat him, not like just taking his little hat off. Sure, that works too. Listen, we all know my love of hats. We all know my love of Mr. Hat.
The hat, yes.
The hat. So I made him a more formal Mr. But we all know the hat and I are on a more informal kind of relationship. But yeah, no, I was like, okay, and then they're gonna defeat him by like saying his name backwards, and then they're like, it's just this little hat. I was like, oh, okay, we're that too.
Yeah. When Superman says something about I have one last trick, I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna pull it out, and then they didn't. So I guess you really didn't have time to establish that was the way to defeat him. You kind of have to set that up a little bit beforehand, so you can't just throw that out there.
I mean, he did get super powerful. Yeah, exactly. Though, yeah, he got powerful when he put the hat on, so it made sense that he would get less powerful when you take the hat off. And they hadn't said anything about his name, so
yeah. So maybe if he continues to show up on My Adventures with Superman, which I would welcome. I love Mixie. So I think maybe later on down they'll have to send him back for good once the storyline is finished, and maybe that's when they'll do that. But I just hope they don't pull like a Supergirl season 6 where Nixley was around all season, and it was like, well, you could just get her to say her name backwards.
Yeah. Does anybody want to even try it?
Like, nobody did.
Just once.
So I hope they make an effort with this show. But we'll see what happens with Mixie here. But I was not expecting him, and I really enjoyed his appearance. Now, I did have a question for you specifically, Morgan, about Mixie's look.
It was a little different than we're used to.
Yeah. So what do you think about this adaptation of this fifth dimensional imp?
I thought this Mixie was so cute. Like a little creature. I was surprised when Mixie popped up and did not look like Mixies that we've seen in the past. Because often they're like they're usually small, but usually they're like little old guys, like little old dudes. And this Mixie was more like an alien creature almost.
Yeah.
Like with the blue skin and the white hair felt Mixie, but yeah, the outfit was kind of different. So I thought it was interesting. I like that they keep doing different takes that are like they're pretty comic book accurate, but they're like just a little bit of a tweak to go with the sort of the theming of the show. And so this version of Mixie looks like he jumped out of any of the animes I watched as a child. So I was like, oh, this feels great. I love this.
Yeah, I was wondering if you thought it had an anime style to it, because even in my limited anime watching, I thought it did. Mind the Gap in the chat says it's very Dragon Ball Z inspired, like Supreme Kai. And let's see, Carrie Johnson in the chat says, if you remember Thundercats 2011, Mixie looks like Wily Cat and I guess Wily Cat. So some people are kind of comparing him to other versions that have an anime sort of style or leaning to or inspiration from. Brian in the chat also wonders, did Mixie have tiny fangs? It kind of looks like he does. I don't know if those are just teeth, like prominent teeth, but it sort of looks like he does. Now, I do have a question about his look. So he's got the green necklace. Is it a necklace, do you think? It looks like a pearl. It almost looks like a green pearl necklace. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah. It looks like a big necklace that Mixie is wearing in this.
Yeah. So definitely
it kind of reminded me of like in anime, sometimes they'll have like monk characters wearing these like big like beads. They're kind of like I just looked it up, and I guess they're like, like Buddhist prayer beads or something similar.
Ah,
So I was wondering if that was the kind of anime influence style that they were going for. Because sometimes the animes will like have them be comically large, even though obviously they're like necklace size on like normal people out in the world. But they'll be like, no, the giant beads. So and his outfit does kind of have like a little bit of a like wandering monk kind of feel
Yeah.
to it. So I wondered if that was kind of what the inspiration was.
I like that. I think that is a really different take on Mixie, and I think that's very appropriate for the aesthetic that they are going for. Electro WWF in the chat says the green thing might just be the thing that holds his cape, so it might have multiple reasons for being there. But I like your take, Morgan, about the monk look to him. So, do you have any other thoughts about Mixie before we move on?
I just really liked this version of Mixie. He was a scamp. He was getting in all kinds of trouble. He was kind of bonding with them a little bit, and then would immediately turn and betray them. like chef's kiss, classic mix Yizpilic activities, even though they didn't pronounce it quite that way. But I never pronounce it the same every time I say it. So
Yeah,
I
it's good to
understand.
mix it up.
It's good stuff.
It's good to mix it up
Oh,
when you pronounce it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this Mixie. Definitely different from what I've been used to, but I thought he had the spirit of Mix's Pitalik, even though it was not pronounced the way I would have done. And I liked that he had a reason to be there. Like everything was in place for the story. So he uses Superman because he doesn't have the strength to get into the Earth Prime Space and Superhero Museum, where the Green Lantern is, where Mr. Terrific, I think, has one of his weapons in there. Dr. Fate's helmet's in there. The Cosmic Rod's in there. The Legion Flight Ring is in there. But he's going after, of all those things, he could have taken the Cosmic Rod or the Legion Flight Ring, but he goes in there to steal Lois Prime's recorder. Because he needs the hidden key to the League of Lois Lane's headquarters vault to get his hat. So I liked that everything he was doing story-wise was leading to the next piece of his strategy to get his hat back so he could regain his power. So I always appreciate that when a story has all the pieces together, like they're not leaving something out, they're not doing anything randomly at all, it has intention behind it. And so I really appreciated that about this version of Mixie. Okay, we've talked about multiple versions of Superman. So what did you think about the League of Lois Lanes?
The League of Lois. I thought that the concept of the League of Loises was so funny. We've obviously watched a bunch of stuff that includes multiverses, and I really liked this version of the multiverse where like all the Loises have found each other. And they're all, type A overachievers, and so they've made our Lois feel pretty bad about herself. And I like that there's like the one like cyberpunk Lois. There's
one that has like a cyber arm, like a robotic arm. Yeah. What happened to that Lois?
I want to know everything about cyberpunk.
Or is that Lewis Lane? One of them was a Lewis.
I don't know which
one
was
which.
Lewis. There was a Lewis Lane. I don't remember where Lewis was, but Cyberpunk Lois was my favorite. Cyberpunk Lois was like, yeah, let's shoot at everything. Cyberpunk Lois was not, digging into things or asking any questions. I thought that the idea of a whole league of Loises was just so fun.
Yeah, I really liked even the I shouldn't say costume. Their suits, their space suits, have an L on the front, like the light blue part of it makes an L. So I really enjoyed that they had their sort of own insignia because branding is important. So I'm glad that they've been able to do that and create their own logo in the multiverse. But yeah, they were mean to her. They to our version, My Adventures with Superman Lois, because they said something about how So the League of Lois Lanes is founded by Lois Prime, the first Lois to discover the multiverse, that they protect every dimension, and that they recruit only the best Loises to help. And I wondered, are there bad Lois Lanes? And so
yeah, well, I mean, we spoiler alert, but we find out by the end that there are some bad Supermen. So I wonder if there is some bad Lois Lanes. Like maybe there are some universes where Superman and Lois both went bad.
Yeah, it could be. And it could also be that maybe they're just not up to par to these Loises, because they say that their recruitment is usually after the Lois's first Pulitzer and around her 21st birthday. But My Adventures with Superman Lois Lane, who apparently is on Earth 12, the same as I guess the Fleischer Superman. She is 23 years old, so she's 2 years behind on getting the Pulitzer. And the main Lois of the League says that our Lois that we've been following is not League material, and Mixie even calls My Adventures with Superman's Lois participation trophy Lois. So people are really not giving this Lois any credit for things she's been doing. So I did feel bad for her, even though Mixie seemed to change his tune and he called her Fun Lois by the end of it. But I like this concept of the League of Lois Lanes, and I would love a whole comic book series on this. I think that would be great. Being able to incorporate past Lois Lanes that we've had, and maybe Lois Lanes that we haven't had from different Earths, because in the show they showed a Prime Lois who I wondered it sort of looked like the Fleischer Lois Lane in one of them. And then they went down like a hall of Loises, and there was definitely a Dana Delaney Lois Lane from Superman the Animated Series.
Yeah, I noticed her like right away.
So I wondered if they were honoring and paying homage to the animated versions of Superman, which I thought was really cool to look back at the legacy of Superman in animation. I thought that was really neat. So I really enjoyed the idea of the League of Lois Lanes. So Mind the Gap says she looks like Fleischer's Lois Lane, and Mark in the chat says maybe there was a Phyllis Coates in there, so it could have been. But people were wondering who the Lois Prime was supposed to be, so it could be a Lois that we've seen before in a Superman story, or maybe it's a Earth Prime Lois's, just one they've made up for the show, because they had several Loises in the Hall of Lois, I guess, that I didn't recognize. So I think they were also kind of having fun with making up new Lois.
Yeah, they were like, ooh, how about this Lois? How about that? Because a couple of them were like immediately familiar to me. I'm like, oh, okay. And then as she got further and further down the hall, I was like, I don't know that Lois.
Yeah. So
I don't know her.
I think they were having fun creating new ones, but I definitely would want more from the League of Lois Lane. So I'm glad that they're here. They did have their own spaceship, which had the purple, because Lois, I intentionally wore purple because Lois, purple is a very Lois Lane color for this live stream. But purple was on the outside of the League's spaceship. The inside of the League of Lois Lane's spaceship, I thought looked like the Legion cruiser from the Legion of Superheroes, especially on the Supergirl TV series. So it looked very futuristic inside, although they don't seem to, well, I guess they have a couple of chairs. They got maybe 3 chairs, but I feel like they're just walking around that ship a lot. So it's not a very inviting ship. It looks like they're all business. They just sit down at their desks and do their thing, but they don't have a lot of decoration. There's no plants. They
haven't really livened the place up or anything.
Yeah, you would think they might decorate a little bit. So this League of Lois Lanes they have an interesting conversation with Lois, because they are skeptical of the Clark and the Superman that we've been following with My Adventures with Superman. I guess because they've had maybe some run-ins with some maybe bad Supermen. So what do you make of that, Morgan? Do you think we're going to be seeing some sort of story that culminates into an evil Superman?
I don't know. That made me like intrigued about where they're going with that, because our version of Superman in this show still doesn't know a lot about like his identity. He doesn't know who is
Who is he?
Who
Who
is
am
he?
I? Who is he? Who is
he
Superman?
even? And it really struck me in this episode how little he knows, because he doesn't even know that kryptonite is like bad for him.
But the League of Lois Lanes did.
But the League of Lois Lane
And
sure
Mixie did. Yeah.
And Mixie was like, LOL. Mixie like bounced out of there, but was like, tee before he left. So I do wonder like what they're setting up. I suspect that our Superman isn't going to go bad, but this is like going to throw another wrench in like the Superman and Lois relationship, because she was just like feeling really good. He's not lying. He's telling her the truth.
Right.
Like, they had a great date where they like saved the world and like, and they got coffee at the end of it, which was fun. And she's feeling pretty good about all things considered. And then suddenly it was like, well, you know, in a couple different universes, he went evil. Bye. So I'm wondering how that's going to like impact their relationship moving forward. Is she going to tell Clark that, you know, he's evil in some of these universes? I don't know. I'm interested to see where that goes. I suspect that we'll maybe meet another like evil Kryptonian by the end of the season, and that little sliver of kryptonite will come in handy, but I could be wrong.
Oh, that's an interesting theory, that maybe it won't be our Clark or Superman who goes evil, but maybe another evil Superman from another multiverse universe maybe will show up. I think that's a good thought. So we'll see how that is. But I thought it was interesting that our Lois that we've been following, she believes that Clark is a good guy and he's a hero and he's been doing great things. And so for these cynical Lois Lanes to come in and sort of ruin that for her, I sort of hated it. I was like,
I know. I was like, they're just having a good time. Leave him alone.
I mean, I didn't hate the story. I just like, I felt for that Lois to like have that put on her, to where now I wonder if she's going to be skeptical of Clark and maybe watching him in a different, like seeing him in a different way, or seeing his actions in a different light. But one of the things I thought was great about this Lois Lane is that she, even at the beginning of the episode, she wants to get Clark a present. You know, he's planning the date and she wants to give him a gift. And the thing that she can offer him is answers. And so she wants to use her talents as an investigator to figure out where he comes from, what he's all about. So I think that her leaning into that investigation hopefully will give her some answers about what she saw in that file. I did notice that the file was called Superman File X. And there is a Superman X who was in the Legion of Superheroes animated TV series. He was basically the Mon-El of that show. So he was like another Superman. So I wonder if we will meet a Superman X character at the end. So I wonder if they will call him Superman X. So that could be interesting. Any other thoughts about I guess what we could mention? So there's two things. The two things that we need to mention while we talk about the League of Lois Lanes. So the first one is that it's not just Lois Lanes who are in the League of Lois Lanes. We find out.
We got ourselves a flame bro. Yeah.
Oh, it's still looping. I'm sorry. So yes, we get to meet another flame bro. I think it was Jelena Olsen. So apparently Olsens are also invited to be in the League of Lois Lanes.
So good.
So what did you think about Jimmy getting to meet Jelena here?
I really liked that Jimmy got his own version of like an alternate universe Olsen, and that this alternate universe Olsen is also like super into like creatures and conspiracy theories. And she's like, hold on, you are not going to believe the things that I have seen. And that when that moment where she's showing them a list of all of her like creatures and she talks about Comet, I lost my mind. I was like, no, Comet.
She actually does name him. She calls him Comet and she talks about him as a telepathic horse. So I appreciated it that Jimmy asked her to set that up. He asks her, "What's the coolest thing you've seen?" And
Yeah.
she mentions the
And
telepathic
it's
horse.
comic.
Yeah,
I love that Comet is the coolest thing that she's seen. I also love that there are these like beautiful photos of like her like a forehead to forehead with Comet like telepathically communicating. And I was like, this is beautiful. Art really is paintings of horses. I thought that was so good. I really liked the way that they slipped in the Comet reference overall. It was so good. And now I feel like they've set it up so that we know Comet's out there. Comet's out there in some universe.
you can't just throw him out there and not have him appear on the show. I feel like that is a disservice.
Rachel in the chat says, I screamed at my computer screen when she said Comet. Me too. Me too. I was like, no, they're not giving us everything we wanted.
It's pretty close. I mean, we're checking off some boxes here. So the people writing this show know what they are talking about. They are very knowledgeable about the DC Comics lore and Superman mythology. Comet he's basically a horse man who is associated with Supergirl, but he's also part of the Superman family and the Legion of Super Pets. So I think the fact that they are aware of these things tells me that somebody writing for this show has been doing their homework. Yeah, Electra WWF says, I knew you guys would love the Comet reference. We are big Comet, the Super Horse super fans here on Supergirl Radio. So I'm just glad that somebody recognizes him as the coolest thing that we've ever seen. Well, cool, or sometimes he's a little I don't know what to think about this, but usually very cool.
He's usually a very good boy.
If you would like to read a good story with Comet the Super Horse, check out Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. He's also in the Peter David run pretty predominantly, and the Silver Age in the Action Comics issues. He plays a pretty big role. He's in a lot of issues in the Silver Age of Supergirl, so definitely check Comet out there in the comics. Okay, so we've established the League of Lois Lanes. We know that the Olsens are in it, and they are seeing cool things like a telepathic horse. Now, I guess the thing that we haven't really touched on here, which was kind of the setup for the whole episode, is that Clark and Lois were going to go on a date. So I was curious, Morgan, what did you think about Clark's planning process for that? He was very excited about it.
He was all over it. He maybe should have spent that time like sleeping because he looked pretty rough.
Yeah.
He was doing like the conspiracy board, like connecting things with like red string. And
he did have a string theory looking apartment. But
you would think that he was like, breaking like a major story or a major case, but he was like, no, then we will go here. Then we will go to dinner, and afterwards coffee. And I was like, you seem to have spent like a really long time on this date plan, but like it sounds pretty normal date. So like, what were you spending all that time doing? He's like, then we'll do this, then we'll do that, then we'll do that. I was like, yeah, but those are all pretty like normal date things. That's like an hour on your computer Googling like where to go on dates in Metropolis. I don't think you needed all of this. Also, I feel like Rachel makes a very good point in the chat. Who drinks coffee at night? Like, why was the coffee at the end of the date? Like, yes, it's 9 p.m. We're going to go for a nice coffee that's going to keep us up all night.
Well, when you go to, nice restaurants at the end of a meal, they might offer you coffee to wrap up your meal. So maybe that was part of it. But it seemed like on this date, they were going to dinner and then going to get coffee. So it didn't seem to be part of the dinner. I did think it was interesting. They were going to go check out the cherry blossoms at 7:00. They were going to, Clark said there were swans that were going to take flight at 7:45. I thought that was a very intricate detail that he had planned out. So he had it all planned out. So
how do you know exactly when the swans were going to take flight?
So I feel like he's probably spent some time with swans up in the air. Is my guess. Like maybe he knows. I mean, I know when
what if he can telepathically communicate with the swans? And he's like, when you guys planning on going home? Like around 7:45.
So you don't have to be Superman to know this. I've amateurly been studying the Canada geese that operate, and I don't know that they live in my neighborhood, but they at least eat their meals and swim in my neighborhood because I live near a lake, and so I know that around 7 o'clock they go eat breakfast, they eat some grass. And then after they eat, they go for a little swim. And then about, I don't know, 6 or 7 o'clock, they fly home to wherever they live. So I just see them flying over my house. So I kind of know the schedule of the geese. So I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility that Clark would have tracked the swans.
Makes sense.
So maybe he's been studying them. Maybe he's an avid birder. I will assume that he knows knows a lot about the birds. Brian makes a good point. Maybe that was an homage to Kurt Swan, who is a very famous, one of the most famous Superman artists in DC Comics. If you were to ask an expert Superman fan who was one of the best artists to draw Superman, they would probably mention Kurt Swan. Electra WWF also says Canada geese are evil. You have no idea how violent those little buggers can get. Oh, I do. I've been hissed at many times. I don't know if you know, but Canada geese can hiss. And they do not like it when you are around the goslings. They do not like it when you are close to their babies.
The more you know about Canada geese.
They are bossy and they're mean, but I love them. Okay, so is there anything else about this episode of My Adventures with Superman, Kiss Kiss Fallen Portal that you would like to mention?
I'm trying to think. I really liked this episode. Again, I've been just enjoying every single one. And I think this show is so good at leaving every episode on a cliffhanger that like makes me want to immediately watch the next episode, which is, I feel like, kind of in the streaming age when everything is getting like dumped on platforms, like 15 episodes here, watch it or don't watch it. I think there's like an art that's being lost of like the cliffhanger.
Yes.
Which was the thing that made people want to come back and watch your show again next week. And this show has it perfectly. Like every episode, like not every episode ends on like an annoying cliffhanger, but like this one again, like what does she do with the kryptonite? What does she do with the information that some of these Supermen are evil? And I immediately was like, where's the next episode? So I think that they're doing a really good job of like keeping the audience like involved and engaged.
Yeah, those cliffhangers have been pretty good. I also was like, uh-oh, what is Lois doing with kryptonite? That cannot be good. Because this Superman, I think he's been hit with kryptonite before. He was hit with kryptonite in this episode.
Yeah, definitely this episode. I was trying to remember if he'd been hit with it before.
So he knows that something can harm him, but I don't know if he knows like what it is. He didn't know about Krypton until this episode. Mixie sort of let it slip to him that he was from Krypton, and Superman was like, "What is that? Where I'm from? I don't know." So maybe this will also further the investigation into who is he and where he's from. So he's starting to get a few little pieces of that. Yeah, I enjoyed this episode so much. I would love to see the League of Lois Lanes show up again. I hope that our participation trophy Lois, our fun Lois, I hope she gets their respect sooner than later. I hope that they come back and treat her well, because I think she held her own against Mixie. So I think she deserves to be there in the League of Lois Lanes. Mixie was great. I'm very excited that he is in the show and causing chaos and becoming a problem for Superman. So that's a really fun addition to an already great TV show. And I know that I talk about it every time we talk about this show, but I just love when Jimmy Olsen gets to indulge in the weird things that he was always confident existed, but now he's getting proof of it. There were some delightful Jimmy moments in this episode where he went to Clark's spaceship and he saw the obelisks. And
Oh my God,
was,
yes.
he was
And
like,
he was just holding on to them as they spun around.
and he was like, "This is the greatest day of my life." So
just in the background, that it's so funny because it made me think back to like the first episode of the series where I was like, I don't know about this version of Jimmy, and now I'm like, I would die for him. Tell him about Comet.
So he is continuing to be probably my favorite character on the show. I enjoy him so much.
I also like when the one Lois was like, well, whenever we find out who let that gorilla and that big brain out, like we're gonna get him, and he was like, I have no idea about any of that.
Why do you care? I don't know why you're bringing this up. This is nothing to do with us. So yeah, this has been another good episode of My Adventures with Superman. And I did want to point out, because Electra WWF said in the chat, fun fact, Kiss Kiss Fall in Love is the theme song to an older popular anime show. So it's possible the title of the episode is a nod to that. That's an interesting thought. I kind of thought about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I think is another, it's a movie.
That's what I initially thought they were referencing. But given all the anime references, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a twofer in this case.
Yeah, I think that's probably more in line with it. So I think that that's probably what that is referring to. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm glad we could talk about it. Well, I guess in going through our thoughts, we now need to go into some thoughts from our listeners. So Morgan, would you like to guide us through the listener feedback that we have?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to bring
okay.
Oh no. I was going to bring up this comment from Mind the Gap, who said the title was from an anime called Orin High School Host Club, apparently. But
is that a TV show? Is that I don't know what that is.
I think it's a TV show. I'm pretty sure. I feel like I've heard that name before. It's probably also a manga. That's usually how those things go, though. They're usually a comic, and then it gets adapted into a TV show.
It is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Bisco Hattori.
Electra WWF says, and it's an anime TV show.
Yeah,
and a manga, of course.
Yeah,
they always they usually adapt it one way or the other. So it's usually a pretty good call that it's one or both.
I like that they're able to do a good job of handling both the DC Comics stuff, but also adding in the animated portions of it and gelling those in a way that seem seamless. So yeah, I've been really impressed with that.
It's been working really well. And as somebody who like grew up on watching a lot of anime, reading a lot of manga, it's like I love the little references that they have to things, just like the art style and all of that. But it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like you're getting hit in the face with it all the time. And it works so well with all the DC stuff, which like obviously they're pulling out some deep DC lore. We got Mixie already. We got a Comet reference. We also got a reference to the news kid.
Yeah, the Newsboy Legion. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, we've gotten to see a lot of DC lore so far. Okay, so maybe we should hit some emails.
Yep. So I didn't want to interrupt the graphics.
Oh no, just go ahead and read it. I'll get it. I know you're good.
Whoops. Now we're going to get to the emails and not interrupt the beautiful graphic. So we have an email from Mark, who writes, regarding the episode from a few weeks ago and the stairwell sewing circle in our shirt sleeve scene, I wanted to point out that not only were Clark and Lois missing their jackets, but it seemed like the animator spent some extra time detailing Lois's anatomy, i.e. when she turned toward the stairs, they really accentuated her butt. Speaking as someone who spent a year as a 12-year-old boy, they're making this cartoon major crush material. Well, Lois in this cartoon is very cute, I will say. I will agree with you, Mark. As Mark goes on to say, as for this week, Lois is 23 years old and she's still an intern. That's got to be soul crushing, but that doesn't excuse the Legion of Loises from being so mean to her.
Yeah, it seems like she should be like entry level full
Yeah.
time.
Entry level by now. Like, I want
Yeah.
to know what the intern situation is. Like, are they being paid? I hope they're being paid. It doesn't seem like they're doing this for like college credit.
Yeah, because they don't seem to be going to college that we've
No,
seen.
no,
So
we've never seen them show up for class. Now, having watched a lot of like high school like TV shows, they never do go to class. That's
yeah,
the
it's
thing you should know about high school is you just don't have to go. And college is the same from what I've seen from television, but they never talk about like, oh, I got to study. So it seems like they've already graduated. So why aren't they just entry level employees at this point?
that's
Are,
a great question.
are they being paid? Unionize.
Let's see. Was there more to? Oh no. So Mark's email. That was the end of Mark's email. So
It
we
was.
also have an email from Daryl who writes, "Quote: Like Lois, I'm pretty upset at Clark for letting his lies get so far that she felt she had to jump off a building to get to the truth out of him. Jerk move, Clark. I understand Lois being upset, but it feels like it barely lasts very long before they are starting over. My favorite iterations of Lois have always been the ones who know the truth. Me too. A Lois that Clark can't lie to and gaslight. The gorilla, who I think was Monsieur Malat, and the brain have been in DC animation going back to the original Teen Titans show on Cartoon Network. Oh, that's good to know. I did not know that. So thank you, Daryl. Daryl also writes, I think the reason Jimmy already knew is because the minds behind the show know the real drama is from Lois finding out. It's no big deal to reveal that Jimmy knows, but Lois finding out is where the real plot is. And Daryl ends his email saying, if either of you watch Harley Quinn on Max, which I believe you do, Morgan, I do not.
Yes.
Yes. Are you current on Harley Quinn?
I am not current. I think they released a new season recently that I have not yet watched.
Okay. All right. So Daryl is going to let us know something. Daryl says, you will be happy to know that Kara is now on the show.
What?
Playing an optometrist of all things. I love it.
Amazing.
I love it because so often she is referred to as a female Superman. Who knew it would be the Harley Quinn show that would truly put her on a separate path from her cousin? Unquote.
That is very different. That is a very different. How did she get into optometry? I have so many questions. I got to catch up.
So just so I'm clear, optometry is like eye stuff, like eye doctors.
Yeah, like an eye doctor.
So how does that in any way? I mean, I guess Supergirl does have supervision.
She's got eyes.
She's got all the visions. She's got heat vision. She's got telescopic vision. So she's got supervision. Oh, Mark in the chat says, I think it was actually an ophthalmologist. I'm trying to remember what ophthalmology is.
I'm gonna look that up.
What's the difference?
It's an eye care specialist. Unlike optometrists, ophthalmologists are doctors of medicine or doctors of osteopathy who have specific training and experience diagnosing and treating eye and vision conditions. That doesn't really answer as many questions as I thought it would. Different kind of eye doctor, basically.
I still don't think it makes any sense, but maybe it adds up more when you see the episode in context.
It seems like the context is that Harley has bad night vision and one surgery, so Kara is the doctor.
So random.
I can't wait to dive into this, catch up, and understand more about what's happening there.
Yeah, maybe we should do an episode of Supergirl on the Harley Quinn the animated TV show, because I would be a little bit insulted for my eye doctor to have perfect vision.
Yeah, right?
I would be like, you're judging me for not having good vision because yours is just so flawless. I would be, and actually more powerful than anybody else's vision on Earth. I would be very intimidated to go to an eye doctor like that, but that's just me. I want my eye doctor to have a little bit of less than 20/20 vision just to make me feel better about my my bad eyesight. So I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that episode, and we'll see if she maybe let us know, Daryl, she hops on more episodes of Harley Quinn. We'll have to try to keep track of Kara on that show. Well, we don't currently have any snap judgments, but I can probably make some up if you want to attempt them.
Yeah, sure. We can do it. Maybe there'll be some in the chat. I
Yeah.
don't know.
If you have snap judgments you want us to make, we didn't come prepared, but we will still try to play a game. So drop your snap judgments in the chat if you would like to play along. Give us 2 choices to choose from, and we will make them. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary. Okay, so here's my snap judgment for you, Morgan. If you were Lois Lane, which aspect of Clark's perfect date would you be more excited about? Would you be more excited about the swans taking flight?
Sure.
Or the 15-minute romantic rooftop view?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I feel like you can go to a roof anytime and all you're really seeing are buildings. But a majestic swan taking off at the exact moment you expect. That is amazing. If he was like, listen, they're gonna take off at 7:45. I'd be like, first of all, that is strange to know. But then if they then took off exactly at 7:45, it would change everything for me, to be honest. I'd be like, how did you know that? What don't you know? I'd be so impressed, honestly. That's really how you bag me, is to tell me exactly when a swan is going to take flight. I'm like, whoa, this guy's got it all figured out. So I'm going swan.
Would it make a difference if the swan was taking off from like the ground level, or if the swan was taking off from? I guess most swans would probably take off maybe like from a lake.
I'm thinking from a lake. Like
in
my mind, it's like a lake or like a beautiful pond, and they like take flight, like the sun's coming down. It's like just a beautiful moment.
It's majestic, yeah.
Majestic, even.
Yeah. The big wingspans. I would probably also go swans, because I feel like my acrophobia, my sort of developing fear of heights that I have, probably wouldn't be great for the rooftop view. Although you're with Superman, so if you did fall off a building, I guess
you're pretty safe. You're almost as safe as you can be on a rooftop.
If you're gonna fall off a rooftop, it's best to do it with Superman. So I would. I think I would. I'm a big birder too. I'm not a bird expert. I can't tell you about their calls. I'm not really good about spotting them while they're in the air, but I do love birds and I'm fascinated by them. So I think I would go with the swan as well.
Have I ever told you about the board game that I love that is bird themed?
No.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with a board game, and I call it the bird game so much, or like, hey, let's play birds, that I don't remember what
it is actually called.
I had to just look it up. It's called Wingspan, and it's like you kind of like, you win from various different ways, but the birds have points on them, like the cards have points on them, and you have to lay eggs, and you have to lay eggs on the card. Yes, and you have to get food, and if you don't have enough food, you can't build a bird.
This is amazing.
It's a whole thing. I brought it over my friends recently, and they're like not big board game people, and I was like, it's honestly less confusing than it looks, but the eggs are important, so you do have to remember to lay eggs. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, this is my favorite game. So, and this goes out to anyone else who's like, yeah, I love Wingspan, or like even knows what I'm talking about. Birds are amazing.
If we could find a way to play it, I think we should do that for a Supergirl Radio game night.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just putting it out there that there is an app. It is functional, because sometimes when we're too lazy to get out the board game, Mike and I will just play from opposite ends of the couch.
So we could probably
we could figure it out.
We could probably pull up another camera to be like a smartphone camera over the live stream. And can you play with each other? Like, can you play?
Yeah, like against each other.
The same game through the app.
Yeah, same game through the app. And so like you're playing against each other. Mike just messaged me from the other room. Yeah, wingspan. Because you heard me talking about it. But yeah, you can play in the same game with like, whoever. You can like hook up accounts and play against each other.
We're gonna have to play the bird game. I'm very intrigued
Okay.
now.
The last thing I'm going to tell you about the bird game, and then I'm going to get the last thing I need to tell you about this bird game is that each card has with it a bird fact on it at the bottom.
Amazing!
So as you were playing the game, you are learning facts about birds. So
oh my gosh.
When I put the cards down, I like to read the bird fact at the bottom just so everyone knows, what I'm dealing with.
I am so excited about this. I'm going to definitely have to check this out.
It's amazing.
Mark in the chat asks, Rebecca, do you have the Merlin app? I do have the Merlin app. I haven't gotten it to work real well. The benefits of the Merlin app are that you can record bird calls out in the wild, and it's supposed to be able to tell you what.
Ooh.
Sometimes I've gotten it to work, but if you have a lot of birds in the same area kind of talking to each other, it doesn't know what to do. It needs like isolated bird calls. But I use more so the iNaturalist app. So if you want to identify plants, animals, fungi, lichen, it even will identify like what they call scat in the woods, which is basically animal poop. It can identify animals from the poop. So iNaturalist is what I use. It's a free app. It uses artificial intelligence to you take a photo of something and then you upload it to the app, and it uses AI to kind of help you identify what the thing is. So I use that more than Merlin because you can identify birds that way too.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I see there's a snap judgment in the chat. Okay. This is from Mark, who says, you're going to have a daughter and have to pick one of these names for her. Which do you choose? The Brain or Fleur de Lis? Knowing that Fleur de Lis, by the way, has maybe some baggage on it.
So if you're a first-time Supergirl Radio listener or viewer, there is a long-standing Supergirl Radio mythology around the fictional character of Fleur de Lis, written by a famous Supergirl Radio listener, Anna, who was a masterful snap judgment writer and really created a choose your own adventure with Fleur de Lis.
We got deep down in the lore of Fleur de Lis.
Fleur de Lis was an assassin, but she kind of overcame her murderous ways.
There's a lot of hardship in her story, a lot of setbacks, but you know what? She overcame. Yeah. And that's why it was so inspirational. And she often protected us and only sometimes killed. And that was important.
A lot of mystery around Fleur de Lis. So I like the idea of the Fleur de Lis connection, but are you welcoming tragedy into your life?
That's a big question. I think that's a question that you've got to ask yourself before you answer. It's like the baggage of Fleur de Lis too much.
But are you then putting expectations on your daughter by calling her the Brain? What if she's not a good student? Like what is it supposed to be ironic that she's not a great student, but you call her the Brain?
Like when you name a big dog Tiny.
Like, are you setting her up to fail because the expectations are just too high?
The expectations are going to be pretty high when you name your daughter the Brain.
I guess I'm going to go with Fleur de Lis because I do try to speak French when I can, and we just have a real long history with Fleur de Lis. So I think I'm gonna go with Fleur de Lis here.
I gotta go with Fleur de Lis too. She feels like an old friend. I like her. I like her story of gumption. So while there is a lot of tragedy, there is also a lot of persevering over adversity for Fleur's story.
Yes.
So it looks like we have another snap judgment. So Mind the Gap asks, snap judgment, are there other Supergirl Radio podcasts in the multiverse? Yes or no?
I would like to think so. I would be curious what they talk about. Do they have the same running jokes that we do?
What if they're like almost the same, but just like a little bit different?
What if they hated Snapper Carr or Director Bones?
Oh my God.
What if they had some really bad takes?
What if they were like, oh my God, thank God they never did Turtle Boy Jimmy Olsen. That would have been terrible.
Or what if, like Mark in the chat says, the Earth 2 Supergirl Radio is hosted by Teresa Justino and Carly Lane?
Well, there's definitely a version that is that, for sure. Like 100%. That's like the path not taken Supergirl Radio. I love it.
I bet they would have a great podcast. I would listen to it. So that is delightful. I would like maybe we could have another Earth Supergirl Radio sometime where we just let
Ooh.
I mean, we've kind of already had listeners like sort of podcast an episode for us, but not totally.
Not totally.
Just
yeah.
like guests.
We just give it over.
We just let somebody do the whole thing.
We just take a week off. I think we're pitching this because we're tired, but like we're trying to present it as like a fun idea that everybody. What if we didn't do anything for a week?
What if you just did all?
What if you, the listener, just did your own podcast? How would you like that?
It would be great, I think.
I love it.
So thank you for all of your snap judgments. I think it's gonna take us out of here. No judgments on your snap judgments. All right, well, I think we need to get to some Supergirl Radio and some DCTV podcast plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DCTV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DCTV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DCTV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Now see here, Supergirl Radio is part of the DCTV Podcast Network, so if you want to listen to other shows, we've got The Flash Podcast, Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, The Lituation Room, DC on HBO Max Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern Podcast, The Sandman Podcast, DCTV After Dark, and Justice League Dark Podcast.
And we have some designs related to a Kiss Kiss Fallen Portal in the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store that we would love to suggest.
Yeah, if you want a pillow that has Mexes Pitalik on it, you can get that. You can also get designs that have Elseworlds on it. So if you want to dive into the multiverse with the League of Lois Lanes, you can get a sticker or a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, a hoodie of Elseworlds on it. So we have some really cool designs in the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store if you would like to check it out and get some new merch for yourself. I picked up some new things and I'm going to be wearing to Dragon Con in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited about it. So love the TeePublic store. That's just, I'm sure that sounds very biased, but I really do enjoy
got some good stuff.
enjoy the designs in the TeePublic space. We would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Majuba, and Lingonberry. If you would like to also become a legion of super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We've done a lot of things. We've on the Patreon, we've looked at the mini Stream Deck, which I'm still kind of playing with to figure out all of its possibilities. We are also going to be taking a look at the first episode of the animated Teen Titans series. Not the Teen Titans Go, although we should probably get to that at some point. But we're going to be talking about Teen Titans. So we're going to be doing a monthly pilot pod about that. So you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio to find out about all of the levels and the things that you can get there. If you would like to keep in touch with me, you can follow me on Vero True Social at Derby Kid, where I'm sharing things I'm watching or reading or checking out. A lot of really downers of documentaries here lately. I watched the House of Hammer, which was a tough watch. I also watched the I think it was called Jared the Subway Guy, maybe.
Wow, you really
Jared
are watching
Fogle.
some tough watches.
I was making some bad choices about the documentaries that I was watching. I also watched the Hillsong documentary on Max. So it was really a negative space for a little while. So I need to find some comedy.
You need to get like a good comedy in there.
Really lift up the spirits. You can also find me on Instagram at the Derby Kid. You can also follow my personal YouTube channel and subscribe there at youtube.com/DuckMuckProd. I am almost finished with my Barbie, somewhat like a mini analysis, not a real big deep dive into Barbie, but I'm almost finished editing that. I had to do more B-roll than I thought I did, so it's taking me a little longer, but I should have that out by the end of the week if you're interested in that. And I also hope to do something on Pee-wee's Big Adventure and then the Full Circle event from back in April. I'm behind, so I'm eventually going to get caught up and do some live streaming probably sometime in the fall. So a lot to come on my personal YouTube channel if you want to check it out.
That sounds awesome. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, where we just recorded 2 episodes, and I'm going to remember what they were about for sure any second now. We definitely recorded an episode with special guest star Mike. Season 2 of Impact winner. Mike is like just a full-time podcaster now. And we also recorded an episode about the rom-com that just came out called Red, White, and Royal Blue on Amazon Prime. I was the lone person who had read the book. So I was the downer of the conversation because I was like, of course, that's not how the book did it. So if you also read Red, White, and Royal Blue or saw the movie and you're like, I also am mad about things that they changed from the book, or I want somebody to kind of complain about things that I don't care about, that is going to be the podcast episode for you. I was like, I'm going to keep it positive, but also like they took out like whole characters and I don't know why they did that.
I love the expert analysis. Very exciting stuff. I do want to answer one question before we go that's in the chat. Mark wants to know if Rebecca, are you going to join Threads? No. Is the answer.
You don't want to get threading? That's what the kids call it.
Is that what the kids are calling it? I will only join Threads if it lasts 3 years.
I think that's fair, actually, because I joined Threads right away. I was like, yeah, let's get on here. Let's see. And we're what, like a month in? I'm like, that's right. I've got a Threads account. It's going great. Leader on Threads, obviously.
Yeah, I think it had a really big like first day, and then over time people are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Also you can't delete your account without deleting your Instagram account, and
Which is dangerous.
It's insane. I don't know why you would do that. So I refuse unless it becomes a viable platform, and then I will think about it. And even then, I'm just going to think about it.
Come say hi to me on Threads. Maybe it'll make me remember I have that account. At Mojotastic there too. Because again, like the Instagram thing, it was really easy to set it up. And then I was like, what do I do with this thing? You can only post so many cat pictures, and then you're like, I don't know. I guess I'll move right along.
So we'll keep an eye on Threads to see how it goes. But in the meantime, you should follow the Supergirl Radio Instagram account. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers on there.
So close.
So we are really close. So if you need to follow us on social media, give us a shot on Instagram. We're making high quality content there. So give us a shout if you can. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And remember, just like not every Lois wins a Pulitzer, not every Superman is good.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah.